I've really enjoyed the testimony. Even my good friend, Mr. Thomas, who's came back, I served with him for numerous years, and he's always been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed the testimony. The problem I've had in recent years is who's getting blamed for this problem out there. And everybody keeps pointing at Freddie and Fannie, and yes, they've been involved in some problematic issues. I remember when Secretary Jackson first took over. First meeting I had with him, I was concerned about their raising requirements on their affordable housing goals. I thought they were problematic and could lead to trouble. Didn't do any good the meeting. I remember introducing amendments in 2000 and 2001 to define predatory versus subprime. I got it to the Senate numerous times, couldn't get it back. But the data I've received, and it's bothersome, is we're pointing just at Freddie and Fannie. I think it's much broader than that. I think it's global too, but it's definitely systematic and industry-wide in the United States. Like between 2002 and 2006, Freddie's mortgage-backed securities share of the marketplace dropped from 70 to 40%. Only in effect, the non-agency went from 20 to 60%. In that point in time, you had a lot of groups like Countrywide and Washington Mutual, Ameriquest, and HSB Finance putting out a lot of predatory subprime loans, I believe, and then backing them into mortgage-backed securities and selling them off. In fact, I believe that's what took Countrywide down, was an ability to basically bundle those and sell them off in the marketplace. But when you look at the current numbers out there and default rates, I think we have a systematic problem, and Dr. Eakin, I think you addressed that. Non-agency loans and the subprime arms serious delinquent are 38.7% today. Subprime loans serious delinquent are 26.5% today. Prime loans serious delinquent are 5.4%. On GSEs, Freddie and Fannie's serious delinquencies 4.2%. Freddie Mac's seriously delinquencies 3.1%. Now, those are both high, but when you compare them to the industry, you think they're performing better than the rest of the industry. So to shine a light on them and just say they're the problem, I think we're missing a lot in what's going on out there, and I think that's a problem. Now, a lot of the losses that Freddie and Fannie have taken are because the way they bundle their mortgage-backed securities, if you have a non-performing loan, they take it back. They eat the loss, replace it with a performing loan, where on the private sector and all these other groups that many are not in business today, they're bundled in a way where you can't debundle those loans. And if anybody loses money, it's the person who invested in the mortgage-backed security, where that's basically the losses today, because the GSE mortgage-backed securities are very safe and sound. Investors are making the return they were promised. So I'm looking at that, and I'm hearing some say that it's just the GSEs. Now, yes, there's a problem. And a lot of the problem, I believe, was being encouraged to change your underwriting standards to be able to make more loans and a broader base of loans. But the question's never been answered. The last time I think Fannie Mae lost money was 1985. Freddie's never lost money. From 1986 till 2005, the only years I can see that they were making bad loans that are really causing the problems were from mid-2005, 6, and 7. Does anybody have any data different than that showing how the loans in previous years performed when the downturn occurred? Then I open to anybody. Yes, sir.
Well, I would just add that up until 2002, Fannie and Freddie made subprime and Alt-A loans or bought private label securities that were backed by such loans equal to $1.2 trillion. That's far more than the private market did after that point. The private market in 2002 exceeded $100 billion for the first time that year. So Fannie and Freddie were 10 times the size of the private market before that. This is very significant. Now, what you can't do exactly is tell when those particular loans were purchased and what their particular delinquency rates were. We know what the delinquency rates were at the end, but we don't know the vintages of those particular loans, so we can't really pinpoint what the losses were for those particular years.
Yeah, but your current subprime loans make up about 1 to 1.5 trillion. The $11 trillion market is all. Right. And much of that's the private sector.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
The subprime loans make up about 1 to 1.5 trillion total of an $11 trillion mortgage market today.
Right. Yes.
And Freddie and Fannie did not own the bulk of those.
Right.
Well, the bulk of those were in the private sector.
What I would no, that's not correct. I don't think. What I was saying was the number of subprime loans that were bought, subprime and Alt-A loans that were bought between 1992 and 2002 were 1.2 trillion. Now, the point here is simply that they were buying subprime and Alt-A loans all along.
My
after.
time's up, so I'm going to let one
Yeah,
person know.
Mr. Acting Chairman, let me just say one thing. Nobody, I think, can defend entirely the activities of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in this circumstance, and I certainly would not do so. But I think it would be an enormous mistake if we came out of this crisis and attributed the crisis exclusively to the problems with those institutions. It would let the major difficulties of failure of accountability in the private sector completely off the hook. We had in the private sector, we had mortgage brokers who were incentivized and paid at the front end to originate mortgages which they knew were not likely to be paid back, and they had no economic consequence when they weren't paid back. We had financial institutions
I'm going to have to have you conclude because my time is still worn out.
Right.
But my whole statement was, based on default rates today, the GSEs are outperforming the private sector by far.
they're outperforming them extraordinarily.
But that's not an excuse.
Right.
Chairman, former Chairman, Mr. Frank, you recommend?
I thank you.